Okay, I've been working on this thing pretty much solid for a little while, and a couple of things have come up. One, the stickers. I yanked the sticker off this. Here, let me zoom it a little bit. I couldn't get rid of the line around the sticker, the outline around the sticker. I tried the usual tricks you'd try with decals, and they weren't working, so I yanked them off. Fortunately, I hadn't put too many of them on, so this should be pretty quick and easy to repair in these 4 spots. I went through my decals. I'm going to use some old decals from other things. It'll work. Other thing going on, I've got the building half done. I need to work on the roof of the building, the walkways, and various other things. If we come in on the building, you can see I've got the brick texture in there really nice. You can see it really well, and that's what I wanted. Okay, so I got to do the roof on the building. It's got some old look to it. I need to do some stain marks on the building. I've almost repainted all the broken parts for this, so I can get that done today, hopefully. So the gun tank itself should be about done today. Just leaves the display base to go and a few things to do with the building. I thought about damaging the building. That is beyond the time frame I have, so the building's not going to be damaged. I might put a blast mark or 2 on the side of it and a crater right in front of it, and that could be enough damage for going on. And I've started laying out the base. I have the wood done for the base as well. Let me reach across the camera. I know that's kind of rude, but here's the board for the base. It's one of those craft boards you buy at Hobby Lobby for under $5. I just stained it and varnished it. I'm probably going to put a layer of plaster of Paris on the top, so that's got to get done the next day so that can cure up and I can start working on it. And yes, I'm probably going to use plaster of Paris and keep it kind of thin, because plaster is easy to work with. You can drill into it, you can do all sorts of stuff with it, and that would give me a working base for scenery. You can paint plaster of Paris. I could paint the wood, but I put the varnish on the wood to seal the wood, because the plaster of Paris contains water. That water will suck into the wood, and those cheap hobby bases you buy at these stores, they don't handle water well. They warp, they crack, they all sorts of things. Alright, the other thing, I painted these with the gunmetal from Alclad. I must have had a bad bottle, because this is a repaint with a new bottle, and boy, it went on so much better than this did. I had to get it fairly thick, and that's why I was breaking parts. The paint was far too thick, and it wasn't working. So that has been completely redone. Those guns are almost done. I have one little thing to fix on them, and they are done. And we'll have the main guns done. So that's where I stand with it right now. I would not use the stickers with this kit. I thought you could get away with it. The test piece I did, this one right here, said I could get away with it, but then I realized why later I couldn't. Let's see if I can find the sticker. I've been doing other test things on this with some pens and stuff. The sticker I think is right there, but the sticker had a white border around it on the edges, so it minimized the look of the thickness of the sticker. It looked like it should look that way. So that would have been okay, but the black print stickers had clear around them, and you could see the clear. No matter how many flat coats I put on top of it, it stayed glossy. Just no good. Stickers are just no good for this sort of thing. And I wish Bandai would quit doing them, or at least do what they do on the Star Wars kits and give you the option of water slide decals. I don't even mind paying extra for water slide decals, but you can't find them here in the United States. Maybe in Japan, but I doubt you're even finding those in Japan. Well, anyhow, I'm going to get going. I've got some work to do before I can get up here and start working. Okay, what you have in front of you is the base for the gun tank. It is wood, and it's shiny because it's covered with polyurethane. What I want to do is put about a 1/4 inch to not a half inch, a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit thicker layer of plaster on the base so I can mount my groundwork and stuff. Now, you have to seal the wood before you put plaster on, especially these cheap wood bases you get from your big box hobby shops. If you don't seal the wood will suck up the moisture from the plaster and crack. There's lots of glue seams. If I turn the wood over, you can see them there's lots of good glue seams, and those glue seams would just pop open when that moisture hits them. So the polyurethane seals that wood. Now, the plaster's not going to stick to that polyurethane, not well anyhow. I mean, it kind of will, but you'll be able to break it off if you're not careful. So I've got some screen over here. I'm going to go out in the garage, cut the screen to size, and attach it with some screws. And then build a frame around the outside of this. Mix my plaster and pour it in until the screen's submerged. The screen attached to the wood, the plaster will attach to the screen, and then they both hold together. Plus the screen will make the plaster that much stronger. So I'll be back in a little bit once I've got the screen attached to the wood. Okay, I have the screen attached to the wood. Now, I'm using these small little screws that I found in the garage. They're not all the same size, but that doesn't matter so much. They're shorter than the wood base is. This is aluminum screen. Plastic would work. You don't want to use iron or steel because it might rust inside the plaster where the plaster is setting up. But most likely it won't, because the water won't be there a really long time. Now I gotta go build my framework up around the outside of this, mix my plaster and pour it. I'll be back once I get the framework done. Alright, you're looking at practice of making blast marks. I don't have the Guntank with me. It's in a storage case to keep the cat away from the cats. But basically I didn't use this brush. I actually like this brush. I got a couple of brushes that were near death. And we used some pigments. And we used some alcohol. And what I did is I put a drop of alcohol down, dipped my brush in the pigments, dipped it in the alcohol, and splatted it a few times until I got a certain pattern. And then I did it on the Guntank. I'll go get the Guntank in a second and show you the end result. But you end up with a blast mark. And you see, some of these are convincing and some aren't. And that's why you practice first. It's pigment. It's going to come up pretty quickly. You've got to paint a clear coat over it, and then it won't come up so easily. This is a scratch piece of plastic. It's going to be the back of my building. Here's the building. Okay? I need a back to that so light isn't coming through. Okay? So I'm making a back using this. Now, let me go get the Guntank, and then I'll show you what that looked like. Okay, I only did 2 of these on the Guntank itself. There's some other marks, but they're not supposed to be blast marks. We have the one there, and the one up here, this one. They've been sealed down with paint, so I don't think, no. I just put my finger on it, and put my finger on one of these. It will disturb it. So they've been sealed down with paint, so they're semi-permanent, but I wouldn't push it touching them because it is pigment powder. And there are ways of locking it down, and paint is one way because it'll bind up with the paint. Okay? That's basically how you make blast marks. It's not very difficult. Here, I can show you really fast. Hopefully the Vallejo pigment is... Yeah, it doesn't have a childproof cap. After all, it's really just powdered pigment. I put a drop of alcohol. Get my brush. Get a little damp. A little bit of pigments, and I shake the pigments off in the bottle. Put it there, and then start making blast marks. And you can see it does a pretty convincing job of it. That one actually looks really good. And you practice a little until you get what you want, and then you do it on the model. And you have multiple tries per brush, and you keep trying, and you'll get what you want out of it. And different size brushes do different things. This is a littler brush, so I get a more dispersed pattern. Use a big brush, I'll get a bigger pattern. And since it's pigment and alcohol, you know, it's not really too bad, except for that's the 90% alcohol, and that will eat paint if you're not careful. But the way we're doing this, it should be fine. Alright, so that's how I'm doing it. Hopefully you enjoyed that little tutorial. Okay, my frame is made out of balsa wood. It's more than deep enough. I don't want the base to be that deep. So I'm going to go mix some plaster. Now the plaster is very runny at first, and I need to let it sit for a little bit to be less runny. I need to go get a bucket too, because I'm mixing more of this than my usual mixture cups will comfortably hold. Okay, I'm not going to pour water in there to test with. I'm going to have to mix a lot of plaster and then do it. Okay, because if I mix in that and test, I can't put water in here. The balsa wood's going to absorb the water, and it will with the plaster. But the balsa wood's throwaway, so I'm not too worried about that. I've got it taped up really good to seal it up, so hopefully I won't get any leaks. And if I let the plaster set up some, let it get a little bit thicker, it won't leak so well. The only worry I have is air bubbles, so I have to be careful how I pour it. But as long as I don't have air bubbles on the edges, it should be fine. And the screen is kind of loose, so it should hold on to the plaster just fine. And these screws are more than strong enough to hold the plaster top on. So let me go mix my plaster, pour it, and I'll show you the end result. Okay, this is the base with the plaster on it. Plaster is still damp to the touch and will be for a day or two. I'm going to put it in the attic, so that'll speed its drying up a lot. Mainly because here in Texas, it's 95, 100 degrees outside right now every day. That attic's 130, 140. So it's like putting it in a small oven. It's going to bake. But the plaster didn't leak out as far as I can tell. So I'm going to remove tape. I don't think I'm going to take the time to remove tape on camera, since I'm going shaky cam right now. It will take a bit. So I'm going to set the camera down, remove the tape, and see what we got. Well, the board's stuck to the base. I'm not surprised by that. Here we go, pulling them off. I'm going to have to do a little bit of sanding, it looks like. I probably can reuse those boards, actually. You see what I did? So how'd that do? A little bit of sanding on the edges? I think it'll be fine. What do you think?
Yep.
Thicker than I thought it would be. But that's fine. I think my base came out good. And we got some rocks too. Just in case I feel like putting some rocks down. I won't put a lot because that will distract. So off into the attic it goes to cure, and I will be back in a little while because I do have some sanding to do on that once it's cured up. It's too wet right now. But you know, that would make a good moon base at this scale. If you were doing something, you can make a moon base out of that really easily. I'll be back in a bit.